Even as we grasp at victory, there is a...
Throughout the novel 1984, people are forced to act out in a certain way or to believe something that is true based on what the government says. Even though there are some of us who would like to believe that they would fight back and rebel against this totalitarian world, the chances of a true rebellion like this are minuscule to none. This is so due to a subconscious desire to fit in and follow authority. In 1961, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted an experiment in order to test this desire to follow authority after hearing the testimonies of several Nazis on trial, claiming that they were just following direct orders. In this experiment, he had people volunteer to teach a man with a heart condition named Mr. Wallace a series of word association patterns and quiz him on what he memorized. If Mr. Wallace got an answer wrong, the volunteer was instructed by a man in a lab coat named Mr. Williams to administer a shock to Mr. Wallace via electrodes. With each shock, the voltages supposedly became higher, eliciting pain screams from Mr. Wallace. In reality, this man was just an actor, and the shocks that the volunteers sent were non-existent. After the experiments were completed, Milgram found that 2/3 of the participants reached the maximum amount of 450 volts, and all of the volunteers reached 300 volts in the experiment. Based on this, Milgram concluded that people are brought up to obey authority, and will obey said authority if A, the authority figure appears to be qualified, and B, this figure claims that they will accept all responsibility for their actions. This conclusion further cements the claim that under the orders, even good people could carry out heinous acts. In the past, countries like Nazi Germany and North Korea have used totalitarian tactics that would shock and disgust any outsider. However, any citizen will tell these outsiders that there is nothing they can do since they cannot disobey without being killed. In 1984, the government not only appears to be qualified, but extremely powerful and threatening, which makes the public easy to control. Additionally, the state paints itself to be all-knowing and on the same side as the common man. For example, while eating lunch, Winston overhears an announcement about how rations have risen thanks to the efforts of the state. It appeared there had even been demonstrations to thank Big Brother for raising the chocolate rations to 20 grams a week. And only yesterday, Winston reflected, it had been announced that ration would be reduced to 20 grams a week. Was it possible that they could swallow it after only 24 hours? Yes, they swallowed it. Orwell 51. Additionally, there was one moment where Winston is remembering old history textbooks and notices some inconsistencies. It was not true, for example, as was claimed in the party history books, that the party invented airplanes. Winston remembered airplanes since his earliest childhood, but you could prove nothing. There was never any evidence. Orwell 33. Even though there are people like Winston who know that the government is lying to them, these people feel that they can't do anything to stop this, since the state is more powerful than any of them. As a result, the people of 1984 are submissive and obedient to their cruel government, no matter how wrong it may seem.
Propaganda is designed to fuel rational notion. By definition, propaganda is information, especially of the biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. The 2-Minute Hate is the best example of propaganda in 1984. It was intentionally designed to cause irrational, uncontrollable hate towards the enemy nations.
Media is often used to sway the public one way or another. The 2-Minute Hate is also used in 1984 as a way of accumulating hate towards a specific person, Eurasian Officer Goldberg. The telescreens display an image of Goldberg in ways that portray him as the enemy and as a coward. Orwell's character Winston describes the 2-Minute Hate as something impossible to avoid joining in, as a hideous ecstasy of fear and vindictiveness. A desire to kill, to torture, to smash faces in grew amongst the crowd, spreading all their hatred towards a single object specifically constructed to further the goal of the government's power. Yellow journalism was used in the Spanish-American War and paved the way for the U.S. to officially enter the war. The USS Maine was docked in a Spanish-controlled Cuba when in 1898 it exploded for unknown reasons. Two journalists, Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst, fed on the already existing resentment for the Spanish and claimed that a Spanish mine caused the blast that killed close to 250 people, and used this story to gain readers. It worked, and this can be claimed to be part of the reason why the U.S. entered the war. By feeding on a public's resentment for a character, governments or newspaper journalists can feed off the hate of thousands to gain what power they want.
That day when
Rough Times 14284.
Here we see Winston reviewing, revising,
increased chocolate
rewriting history to suit the needs of the party.
from 20 to 25 grams per week.
Natural human instinct to judge our process or success in life by seeing how we match up against others, and calls upon psychologist Leon Festinger, who defines this as social comparison theory. Many social media sites like Instagram and Facebook allow users to create a perfectly crafted and sometimes exaggerated representation of their lives, which are used by other users on the site to compare their own lives with one that seems perfect, and thus feel badly their lives do not and sometimes cannot match up. While in 1984 they might not have what society today would call social media, they do have telescreens, which could never be turned off, only turned down, and would monitor the action of party members, even going as far as controlling what time people get up and how much they should exercise. The telescreen was giving forth an ear-splitting whistle which continued on the same note for 30 seconds. It was not 7:15, getting up time for office workers. The physical jerks would begin in 3 minutes. Winston sprang to attention in front of the telescreen, upon which the image of a youngish woman, scrawny but muscular, dressed in tunic and gym clothes, had already appeared. In this scene, Orwell must meet the expectations of the woman on the screen every day, but cannot, and is scolded for it, until he can under pressure. The woman continues on to tell the age class she is instructing that she is a mother of several children, and how if she could do it, anyone under 45 is perfectly capable of doing it. Both social media and these telescreens dictate how a person's life should be led, even if their realities don't match up.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This experiment will be an extension of my research into the effects prisons can have on human behavior.
You're gonna be pleased to know that you all have been chosen to be the prison guards.
But under no circumstances whatsoever...
Shown in the Stanford prison experiment, it doesn't take much to get people to abuse their authority. Students, when given the role of an authority figure over someone of equal status, they very quickly turn to psychological warfare on the prisoners within 24 hours.
Alright, gentlemen, we're gonna have ourselves a lot of fun.
Rule number 1, prisoners must remain silent.
This is an exercise period.
Okay, is it just me, or are these guys taking this thing a bit too seriously? Why don't you give me 20 push-ups?
Look at this guy. Thinks he's John Wayne or something.
You address me as Mr. Correctional Officer.
This might be an interesting 2 weeks after all.
Why don't you make up your bunk, 8612?
I did, Mr. Correctional Officer.
Well, that's not what I see.
Hey, what are you doing here? Just me now!
What was that?
You just hit him. You're not supposed to hit him!
Should we step in?
No. Let the guards figure it out. Let's see where it goes.
Good evening, gentlemen. How about we make this one a night to remember?
This is all real. They won't let you go. They won't let us leave.
Those are not prisoners. Those are not subjects.
George Orwell's novel 1984 draws many parallels to the real world, especially when it comes to society. It can be twisted and manipulated, whether as a whole, with an overt dramatization or propaganda, or as an individual person, with science experiments and social media. Society can create the illusion of having free thought, but it can really shape it to suit its needs. From both, we can learn how free thought is affected by society. Whatever humans are fed, they are likely to believe and are likely to follow.